Final Fantasy XIV's upcoming expansion, dubbed Endwalker, was announced yesterday at an FF14 showcase event. Instead of posting my reactions to the trailer, I thought I would give a TLDR breakdown of the important information we got from the event. My name is the Ashen Dragoon, and I actually did stream the event here on this channel, on Twitch, and on Facebook Live, so check out the links in the description if you're interested in those, and leave a like and subscribe if you do end up liking this video. Without further ado, let's get into the breakdown. So the first thing we get to see in this trailer is a still shot of the moon, which hints towards, the moon being an important factor in this DLC. And here we get some close-ups of some sick paladin armor, and we get to see that the Warrior of Light is in fact on the moon, walking around on the moon. So that is basically confirming we are going to the moon in this game. And so we get to see his footprints on the moon, which absolutely confirms we are on the moon and this is not some weird optical illusion. So now we get to zoom out to hear Emmett Selk actually talking about the final days. I think it's cool that they brought him back, but I want to pause it right here. Now this is something I didn't notice the first time around seeing this trailer, but it appears that Eorzea in the Far East are burning and in trouble from this calamity that's coming, or whatever we want to call it. But we don't see that Garlemald in that shrouded area on the map is in trouble, so I think that could be a hint for something to come in this story. And now the scene transitions to some of our scions fighting, and we get to see here that Alisaie has a new outfit. I'm very glad she does, because she kind of has gotten the shaft for a while now, but we do get to see that she is still a red mage. Her class has not changed. There's not too much to glean from this upcoming section here, but I will say, man, they are so good at making trailers, and their animation is so beautiful. It is really top-notch stuff here. So Alisaie is now on the ropes fighting this second monster, and we get to see Paladin Warrior of Light come in and save her and do some pretty cool things, but what really steals the show here is Alphino, who shows up as a new class. So I'm going to pause it right here so we can take a closer look at Alphino. Obviously he's not using the book he used before, he's using a new weapon, and we find out later in the event that they're called Newliths, and we find out later that he is now a Sage class, a brand new healer class, as we get to see as he heals Alisaie here to Final Fantasy XIV, and it is long overdue. We needed a new healer class, but we can get into that stuff a little bit later on when we get to that part of the event. So I really like this scene transition here. We get to see the fire that is engulfing our heroes, and then we get to see Fandaniel overlooking a fire that's representative that he's the one who's controlling that this end of the world is coming, the final days are coming once more. So I thought that was actually a really nice piece of editing right there. So I froze it again right here looking at this throne, and it's hard to tell if this is in Garlemald or not. The fact that Zenos is the one on this throne does make me think that it is Garlemald, but I'm not really sure. It's just kind of hard to tell with all the darkness going on here. I would assume so. So Zenos has a new outfit, that's a nice touch, but we can see that his gaze is solely focused on the moon, and that's because the Warrior of Light is on the moon. So I really like this scene transition here because it not only shows how fixated Zenos is on getting his rematch with the Warrior of Light, the fact that he's so focused on the moon and he's likely willing to go to the moon to get this rematch. We also get to see a callback to my favorite Final Fantasy IV. The hero of that game, Cecil Harvey, is a paladin, and you go to the moon in that game. So I'm really hoping there's going to be a lot of callbacks to Final Fantasy IV in this expansion, similar to how Shadowbringers had a lot of callbacks and love for Final Fantasy III. And finally we get to see the logo for Endwalker, and this is when the name got revealed, and it looks like we have a spaceship that is going to the moon in the logo, and it's hard to tell. It could be like a tower that's on the moon, but I think it's a spaceship because it looks like you can see something that's like giving it some propulsion there on the backside. And right here at the end we get a release date of fall 2021, not too crazy or unexpected, but I do think that confirms that we probably will not be seeing Final Fantasy XVI in 2021. Because both of these games are going to be made by the same business division, I just don't see them jam-packing those releases so close to each other. So I'd expect a spring, like March, April release date at the earliest for Final Fantasy XVI. Let's get into some of the info they gave us after the trailer, and the first thing they came right out and said is they're adding 2 new jobs and that they could only reveal one today. One was going to be a melee DPS and one was going to be a healer. And we got revealed the healer, which is the Sage, which is what we saw Alfino as in the trailer. The Sage uses a weapon called Newliths that is brand new to the Final Fantasy franchise, and they look like little drones that kind of are manipulated with ether that fly around the Sage, attacking, healing, and giving out barriers. The Sage is going to start at level 70, which is good, you don't have to grind too much, and you're also going to get this job in Limpsa Lominsa. I also think it's very important to note that they had to change the healer role due to the addition of this class, and I think it's a long overdue overhaul. Basically, they're splitting up the healer role into 2 different subsets. One is going to be like the White Mage, a straight up healer, and the other is going to be like the Sage, which is more about giving barriers. And they're going to be balancing Qs accordingly. I think this addition will be very good for the game and get more people interested in being healers. It's always the thing that holds back queues. I know people are very excited because we haven't got a new healer in quite some time, so I think a lot of people are ready for this. The next thing they showed us wasn't too surprising. It was a progression from A Realm Reborn to Endwalker, and they confirmed that Endwalker was going to be the last episode in the Hydaelyn and Zodiark arc. That doesn't surprise too many people. But they also then later clarified that that will not be the end of Final Fantasy XIV. There's going to be plenty of more content coming in the future, and they're just going to be focusing on different stories and trying to go in a different direction than this initial arc that started way back in A Realm Reborn. The next shocking announcement was that the level cap is going to be increased to level 90. Just kidding. I think pretty much about everybody expected that. Nothing to see here, guys. The next thing they showed us was some concept art from some new areas that are going to be in the game, and I am a sucker for concept art. They showed us some really cool stuff from their new small town called Radzat Han. It's similar in size to Yulmore according to the devs. They showed us the area of Thavner, which is actually where a lot of the dancer lore came from, and then they really dropped a bomb showing us Garlemald and how the capital city has just been completely ruined. Seeing this wide disparity in the regions we're going to, it looks like we're going to be going to a lot of different places, and we haven't even seen near everything, so I'm really excited about the different locales we'll get to go to. The beast tribe that we'll be dealing with in Endwalker is the Matanga, and they're kind of an elephant-looking like creature, and though we've dealt with them before in previous Final Fantasy XIV experiences, this tribe is said to be a much more peaceful tribe, so we'll have to see where they go with that. We weren't given much more information. We then got some more concept art, this time for dungeons, and there's a wide variety of stuff here as well, further reinforcing how many different locales we're going to. This one that you're seeing on screen right now really reminded me a lot of like the Hall of Many Faces from Game of Thrones. It looks really creepy and I like what they're doing. This one looks very futuristic and looks like some of those like cerulean processing plants that we went to in the original A Realm Reborn, so I'm excited to see what they do there. The next piece of news that we got is that the high-end raid is going to be called Pandemonium, and as you can see by the artwork, that is Laha Brea. They confirmed that, so who knows what they're going to do with that, and maybe they're bringing him back into the story, maybe it's kind of showing what happened in the past, but a lot of speculation has already started. They also told us there'll be a new Alliance raid. Ooh, big shocker, I know guys, but they did give us the information that it will not be a crossover like this latest Nier Automata one, and it will in fact be its own new Final Fantasy XIV focused story based on one of the mysteries still surrounding Eorzea, so we'll see what that means. Estinian will now be able to be used as an NPC companion when you're doing dungeons offline. You know, sometimes you can pick NPC people instead of playing with real people if you don't want to wait in a queue. I think that's really cool. Estinian's one of my favorite characters in the game. And speaking of Dragoons, people will now be able to buy residential districts in Ishgard due to the restoration quest that's been ongoing the past couple patches. So this is really cool. I think it's so neat to reward players for doing something in-game, and the fact that people are now going to have another place to buy homes and houses is really cool, and the devs even said that they know it is in really high demand and they're going to try to make sure that everyone can get a house that wants one. Probably the last big thing that they announced was the Island Sanctuary, and this seems to be like an island you can have to yourself or with your FC that you can invite friends to, that you basically kind of do like Farmville, Stardew Valley, Harvest Moon, Animal Crossing things at, and you kind of just chill and relax, and it's kind of a break from the main game. That stuff doesn't appeal to me too much, but I know a lot of people love that and really appreciate different ways to spend their time with the game. We didn't really find out too much more than that, so who really knows what this is actually going to entail. One background change that they did announce and go into is how they're going to be overhauling a lot of the numbers and downscaling them, because honestly the numbers are just getting too high and it's causing bugs in the engine. And they even showed the example of one of the bosses having 440 million HP, and I myself have thought like, yeah, the numbers are getting a little ridiculous, and while I will miss hitting like 50,000 damage on my crit on my Dragoon, I also think it was definitely time to start toning these numbers down, getting less going on the screen so you can kind of tell what's going on. They're removing belts from the game just because they had no aesthetic effect and everyone was kind of asking for it, and they're going to give you some of those equipment slots in other areas to let you have more items in your inventory at once. That's kind of nice. I feel like this game does limit the inventory too much, but that was really the last big thing that they said until the CEO of Square came out and started talking about Final Fantasy XIV for the PS5, and they're actually going to have an open beta starting on April 13th, 2021, the same day as the new patch 5.5. So that was brand new news that they really weren't expecting to reveal, but the CEO kind of surprised them. I thought that was cool, and while this obviously isn't a very demanding game, it's going to be nice for people who do have the PS5 to get that free upgrade. As long as you've played Final Fantasy on the PS4 and have a registered account, you're going to get that free PS5 upgrade, so that's always cool when they do stuff like that. The sharper textures, the better frame rate is really going to do wonders and kind of bring people closer to that PC experience. One thing that I forgot to mention earlier on is the fact that they are updating the world travel system, allowing people to more easily travel between worlds and data centers and servers so that they can see their friends who are on different servers or different data centers, hang out, take pictures, do dungeons, raids, etc. I think that's really good. It's something that's been long overdue. The current system is kind of wacky and sucks, so I'm really glad they're looking into this and they're doing their due diligence to make sure they don't upset the economies of the world and other things like that. But that was about everything that they told us in this event showcase, guys. It was very long, probably like an hour and 45 minutes, packed with tons of information, so I tried to condense that down as much as I could for you guys and only give you guys the important details. The next big drop of information on Final Fantasy XIV Endwalkers is supposedly coming in May. I'm going to be covering that on this channel, so if you did like the video, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and hit that bell icon to get notified anytime I upload. Let me know down in the comments below what was your favorite part of this event. Was it the teaser? Was it the new class? Was it some of the concept art? I know I am just sure as hell hyped for Endwalkers, and I want to know what you guys think. Until next time, thanks for stopping by.